So my first video was a review on Loki's first episode, but I took it down for various reasons. This one should be a better version of that. You know better, you do better. I'm not ready to edit this one. I know this is gonna be the longest video I've probably made. I'm excited to do this one, but I just know it's gonna be a pain in my ass. But let's do it. So after the events of Endgame, Loki's actions have disrupted the sacred timeline, whatever that means. I guess that's just a fancy way of saying whatever happened wasn't supposed to happen. Determined by who? We don't know yet. That's the big mystery of this show. So the TVA, the Time Variant Authorities, they show up to apprehend the Tesseract and Loki. Figuring out how this whole bureaucracy works, I was actually interested. I was intrigued. As far as the MCU, this is something that we've never seen before. I've never seen this actually in any show, to be honest. Yes, they pull elements from here and from here and from here, but to bring it all together and make it their own, I applaud them for what they did. I will say it is kind of ass backwards though. You look out the window and this technology and the infrastructure is more advanced than anything we've seen on Asgard, yet you have to realize that you're looking outside of a window of a office that's droll and uninteresting. It's interesting, but it's not. If you look at it, the aesthetic is not interesting. The office decor is just not it. It's very brown and beige, you know. It's akin to any FBI office that you've seen in movies, anything except Bad Boys. Bad Boys, they office look up to date. But every other one pretty much follow the same guidelines. Agents walking around in baggy, non-braggadocious gray suits, a whole bunch of old telephones ringing on desk, a bunch of rappity tapping on keyboards, a whole lot of paper pushing, copies being made, fax machines working their ass off. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, this one, it might be on the level just below that. And that's the point. It's to the betterment of the show. Even with them still using antique clocks and old radios, we quickly find out that this place has unimaginable power. Loki's magic, or any magic in general, is neutralized in this space. Time is very important to them, but they're able to manipulate it at will. One of the first and funniest jokes is they can smite you in slow motion. They also use infinity stones as paperweights. Everybody in the office just has one. Just in their desk. You open a drawer, they got a whole bunch of them just laying around, not doing nothing. Yes, I said infinity stones, those fruity pebbles that Thanos and everybody else is fighting over. In the TVA, they don't even respect them. They pass them bitches around like they Skittles or something. And I can't help but think, since Iron Man 1, since I was about yay high, these are the things that we've been stressing over. This one TV show, this one episode made me question the integrity or the importance of about 24 movies. It might as well have been a cosmic pillow fight, if you ask me. We had a huge war fought over it. Gamora done died over it. Black Widow done died over it. Tony Stark done... The list goes on and on. Shit, half the Asgardians suffered just for one of them motherfuckers. But the TVA is cognizant of all time. Past time, future time, timelines that didn't happen but they were supposed to, timelines that weren't supposed to happen but they did, and I guess they're here to correct all of that, to keep everything in order. For example, the Loki that we watching, he's fresh off New York. So Dark World, Ragnarok, Endgame, none of that has happened to him yet. We know it has. He doesn't. He was supposed to be captured, imprisoned in Asgard, you know, have mommy issues, get her killed, and send his dad to a foster home or whatever, and reconcile with Thor, and then, like I said, we know all that. The TVA knows all that. They got records of it. Loki does. Let's speed this up. The only reason why Loki ain't spanked right on the spot is because they need him. The TVA has been having issues with his field agents being attacked by another thing that we find out is another version of Loki. Agent Mobius feels like we need a rat to catch a mouse. Now at this point, we finna go by episode, and I'm gonna break it all down, and then I'm gonna get my review kinda at the end. I'm gonna put time codes in the description to make it easier on you, cause I'm finna spill my ism. I'm finna drop a lot on you. Alright, off the dribble, they set this up damn near perfectly. Explaining the TVA, what they do, who they are. It still leaves you with a lot of questions, but it puts you on that right path to walk down and be able to point things out and answer the questions that you might have been having inside your head, or the questions that they even give you in the show. First thing that they attempt to do is to tear down the present Loki that we know of and build him up as something new. So not only are they world building, they're fleshing out Loki more than he's already been fleshed out. The whole thing can't be funny. The whole thing can't be just a joke because it needs to have stakes. It needs to have growth, personal growth. So the comedic aspect comes from the banter between Owen Wilson, Agent Mobius, and Tom Hiddleston's Loki. Them on screen together is comedy, but that's where it comes from. They don't trust each other. They don't necessarily even like each other, but he's trying to figure him out. He's trying to escape, and he fails miserably over and over and over again, and we love to watch him fail. But we also get the tonal shifts when they go through a little therapy session, and he's able to see what his life was going to lead to, the path that he was headed down. I know what you was thinking. I was thinking the same thing. I wanted to see how he would feel when he saw what he did to his mom, when he saw what he was doing to his brother, the conversations that they had, and ultimately him getting wet woozy wop by Thanos. This is the start of the train where he gets to learn things about himself that we already know. And it sets us on that path to learn things about him just as he's learning them too. He drops the facade, and we have to give Agent Mobius credit for doing that. He unlocked that for him. And it sets up the next 5 episodes because he does get on board with what the TVA wants to do. But it's not exactly because he just wants to. He wants to figure it out, just like we do. One thing I can't forget to mention is the whole premise of the TVA and the skepticism that we get. Loki get the first whiff of it, but we kind of on the same tip as him. Why can't we meet the people that run this whole thing? Like, it seems like nobody knows who they are. Nobody talks to them except for one person. It's like, how did we get to this point? But that's later on. We got to be patient. Very, very strong start. All right, so this is Loki's first day on the job, right? But we understand we got to keep him on training wheels because he's Loki. They brainstorming and try to figure things out. What we trying to figure out is what's his MO, why exactly he's helping. But while we try to figure that out, we can be entertained at the same time, right? But Loki comes to the conclusion that the reason why they can't exactly pinpoint the location of the Loki and catch it is because it's using cataclysmic events to hide its presence. It's like, this timeline is gonna die. What's the point of even policing that timeline because it's on its way to its end? You know what I mean? So that's gonna come in later on down the line again, but this is the first time we actually get to understand why those places don't get policed like other places. This episode is exposition heavy. When I mean heavy, I mean but we like that. There's not a lot of action that's gonna go on in the show. They give you those little pieces, but it's not Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's not one of those shows, you know what I mean? Now, like I said, we only 2 episodes in, but those questions start to bubble up more and more, you know. Are they evil? Are they good? Who are they? Loki wants to find out, but it just seems like he can't really get too much further to the truth. And this is also the episode where they reveal that Loki, or the other Loki, is a female, but she has a vendetta against the TVA too, and it seems like she's closer to the truth and closer to taking them down. So when they meet up, they have a conversation, she end up leaving, Loki like, bye, I'm gonna go with her. I wasn't too much a fan of this episode, so let me get into a little sidebar. There are a few reasons why I haven't gotten into anime. One of the reasons is just the sheer numbers of how many episodes they tend to create. Especially with me being a latecomer into the game, I feel like I will never catch up. Some of these seasons have 40 episodes, then they got 6 seasons, and you know what I mean? Some of these have been going on, the stories have been going on longer than I've been alive. Some of the animations have been going on longer than I've been alive, so yeah, I'm not gonna catch up. But the biggest reason is because to put up those astronomical numbers, there has to be a torrential amount of episodes that just, they're throwaways. It's filler. A plethora of episodes that just they're not worth the time that they waste, in my opinion. If you put all those filler episodes together, you could probably subtract about 2 seasons worth of content that does not need to be there. Now this only has 6 episodes, so I can watch one of those. I can watch a couple of those. And I did, but facts are facts. This is a filler episode. This episode slows it down a lot. I wouldn't say they have pacing issues, but like all movies and all shows do, they do have off pacing. All right, now I'm gonna have to backtrack a little bit. Y'all gonna hate me for this, but I don't want my message to get misconstrued or conflated. This was a throwaway episode, but it had some important things in there. I think we needed to see the conversation between female Loki and our Loki. It's Loki and Sylvie. That's her name. She doesn't go by Loki. But we didn't need to see a whole episode of this. Now they're stuck on Lamentus, working together, hating each other, but also building a bond. Now watching this, the whole time I was questioning, like, what is Mobius doing? Like I had a crush on him or some shit. I missed him, actually. I miss seeing him and Loki on screen together. The most important thing we get out of this episode is to find out TVA has been lying, which we already suspected that, but now we know. We know that everybody that's working for them are not working for them of their own free will. Well, they are now, but they don't know the lives that they used to live before they became part of the TVA. They were all variants at one time, essentially brainwashed, and now work for the TVA for all time, always. What kind of weird ass cult-esque fraternity-like mantra is that? That just sounds like indentured servitude. But hearing that, I kind of feel bad for Mobius, because it's like, damn, you have to work for the rest of the time. I was thinking like, shit, does he have a lifespan? You know what I mean? Does time work differently within the confines of the TVA? Because it seems like he's been doing this for a long time. All he want to do is get on the jet ski. That's all he want to do. But yeah, it's like, damn, they destined to do this forever without any recollection of the lives that they used to live, whether they were happy or not. You know, they just, the ability to choose, the ability to have free will. That's what we all appreciate. Even though we abuse it, but it should be appreciated, and it should be for all, for everybody. Now this is a big one. Episode 3, Sylvie and Loki were stuck on Lamentus, and it was about to explode. I think it was the moon was about to crash into the planet, or vice versa. I don't know. It was one of those, but as that was happening, the TVA found where they were, opened the doors, and gave them a choice. It was either stay on Lamentus and die, jump through this portal, and face the consequences. What would have been your choice? Back to the interrogation room that they go. Instead of killing them, they go back to being interrogated. For why? I don't know. We still got some episodes left, so why not? Well, actually, the TVA, they don't really kill. It's this thing called pruning. I forgot to mention. They tap you with a Chico stick. Poof. You gone. It looked painful, but it's poof. Now we find out that pruning doesn't kill you. It just sends you into the purgatory, for lack of a better word. Now what we find out is that Sylvie has been running from the TVA for a long, long time. They came and took her from Asgard as a child, and I believe it's for being a woman, being born a girl. I really don't think she did anything wrong, but the whole idea was she's not supposed to be fucked up if you think about it. But she escaped on some bullshit and has been running ever since. And she won't let this go. She wants to know why, who did this, and she want to take him down. That's going to come into play later on in the show. But Loki comes back with his newfound revelation. He always suspected the TVA was wrong. Now he knows, and now he's trying to tell Mobius. Mobius just ain't hearing it because it's Loki. Would you trust him? No. But somebody says the same thing over and over again, starts to raise a few eyebrows. But until he figures this out, he throws him into this time loop. The time loop was a memory. Loki had cut Lady Sif's hair, and when she finds out, she comes back, she beats him up. That keeps happening over and over and over again. I don't know why Loki just didn't run out of the room. I don't know, but more growth. While this is happening, we don't know how long he's been in there, but Mobius is on his journey to the truth. Ravonna seems like she's being secretive and not telling him the truth anymore. You could just tell she couldn't be trusted. Now Loki left a little thread out saying that the TVA shouldn't be trusted. They're doing some shiesty shit. So Mobius decides to pull on that thread. Now early on, Sylvie had been doing a little magic on one of the agents. She's been trying to figure out some information, so she goes into her memories and makes her feel comfortable. Notice how I said memories instead of illusions. The agent realizes that in the memory, this all seems familiar. As far as she can remember before, she's always worked for the TVA. She was made by the TVA to carry out a job, to carry out a certain agenda. But she come back to the TVA talking about, no, that was me, that was my life. But we can't allow that shit to be getting around. To everybody else, she died. Ravonna has been making up this lie that Sylvie's mind tampering sent her on a downhill spiral and left her brain scrambled. So she died. But last time Mobius checked, she was perfectly fine. Now, in a classic phone swap, Mobius takes Ravonna's BlackBerry, finds out the truth. Now, finally, him and Loki are on the same page. He goes back to get him, and now they're finna burn down the TVA. But Mobius get pruned.
Prune him.
We didn't know that pruning sends you to a void, but I thought he died and I was sad. I was like, damn. But I knew he had to come back, but at the same time, I didn't know no better. It's time for the two Lokis to get served up to the judges or whatever, the people that run the TVA. Yet again, instead of killing them, we're gonna take you to the bosses. So they're in the room listening to these three beings talking. For me, it was hard to understand. I had to read the subtitles. I could not understand any of the shit that they were saying. Another rogue agent that Sylvie had shown her past life, she comes in to help. They have a little pillow fight and that whole layer thing. Sylvie ends up beheading one of the beings up there, only to find out that it was an animatronic the whole time. We're no closer to finding out who's behind this. But we do have the TVA on their heels, and now this whole thing is finna crumble because this agent knows the truth. Now we gotta let everybody else know the truth. Oh, and Loki, his dumb ass get pruned. So Sylvie prunes herself too. So we all end up in a void. And that leads us to pruning sends you to a void. I guess the void is the end of a timeline. Nobody ever comes back from the void because it's safeguarded by, I don't know, some dragon that look like it's part of a ad or commercial to speak out against smoking or vaping. This is the best episode. head and shoulders above the rest of them. Black Loki, old Loki, prepubescent Loki, Killer Croc Loki. Hey, I don't care what you say. They fan favorites in my eyes. Universally loved. I don't care what you say. I would love to watch them all get their own series. Stuck in the Void, how they live life. Just show me. I want to see it. I just want to see at least one episode. Show me. They deserve it. They've been here for a minute. They made a home out of this void. Instead of fighting it anymore, we're just gonna stay away from this dragon. We're gonna live out the rest of our days here. Like I said, they made a home out of this void. They got their own little bunker. Got all type of snacks and TVs and shit down there, and they lost all hope on trying to escape. But our Loki that just got here, he ain't with that. He left his little piece of ass back over there. So his bright idea is, I'm finna kill this dragon. I'm finna get back home. Let me take a pause to get this episode as flowers. It's funny, it's charismatic, it's everything that we wanted, everything that I wanted. This show has its ups and downs, but it takes turns and things that it cuts corners in ways that I never expected it to. And I think they renewed it for a second season, and please have an episode bringing these characters back. Please, that's all I ask. All right, we got to remember, Mobius got pruned and Sylvie got pruned, and it sends them all to the same place. So they're here right now, and she comes up with the same idea, kinda. You know, this dragon is the way out of here. This dragon is the way to the truth. Instead of killing it, I'm gonna enchant it and control it. So you know, it's kind of the same thing. But I was sad. I didn't want to see them succeed because I didn't want to see us have to leave this world or the other Lokis. But we got to move on. Now the plan was
not a great plan.
But the unsung hero, old Loki, he came out and he showcased all his strength and died with glorious purpose. It was nothing short of beautiful, a masterpiece, a virtuoso.
Isn't that the virtuoso that you were looking for?
But without his distraction, that dragon was finna kill everybody. They would have failed miserably. I want to assume by giving everybody lung cancer. I'm sorry. That was bad. That wasn't funny. That was a bad joke. But they get to enchant it, and behind all that smoke was just a mansion. I guess the headmaster, or whoever the motherfucker that is that's controlling the TVA, he gotta be behind that, right? So episode 6, here we come. With the TVA in disarray, Ravonna seems like she want to find the truth too, but it's in a different way. It seems like she's still on board, or she still has faith that the TVA is doing the right thing. Even though she might have been lied to also, she'd rather find out if the TVA is necessary. She doesn't want to see it fall before she gets her answer. So she's still going against everybody that we're rooting for. I guess it's for a good reason, but I just didn't like her. I still didn't like her. I was still under the impression that she was in on it too. For a minute, I was starting to believe that she was the one that was in charge and she was trying to play it off. You know, I felt like she was pulling the strings, but I was wrong. To bring her up, I knew who was behind this, especially after they found out that there was robots in that room. I know who was behind this because of her name, her being tied to it, and I know who she's tied to. I seen who they casted him for in the MCU, and I was excited. I was excited to see him. I'm also excited to see another brother, another person of African descent getting their time to shine. I wasn't thinking Mephisto, and when I saw the purple cape, I was just a little ecstatic. For the little scene that he was in, he stole the show. Now, for anybody else, I would say it was a little over the top to watch him toy with everybody and just play around, but he sold it for me. He did his thing, and I know this cannot be a last to him, especially with the explanation that he gave us that there's a bunch of him just floating around. I'm not mad, but it brings up the question, or you can come to the conclusion that he's not your typical villain. You know what I mean? I feel like he has the potential to be I feel like he has the potential to be the next big bad, but we don't need another Thanos. We need a villain that feels like he's the hero of his own story, but we don't need another Thanos. He believes that he's right. He believes that he's bearing the cross that nobody else can bear. You can sense his moral compass, his humility through it all. He breaks it down to you, but it's kind of ambiguous on what or even who he is. I haven't said his name yet because I don't believe they say his name in the show. They hint to it. He's been called many things. If you don't get it by now, goodbye. But his intentions seem pure. He feels like he's saving everybody else, even people that just wouldn't know and wouldn't be able to say thank you. But he feels he's doing this for them, kind of like a savior or a messiah in a certain way, even though it's wrong. You're taking away free will. You're saying that this person shouldn't belong or he shouldn't do that. Who told you that that was your job? You can't save people that don't want to be saved, right? And let's not be naive. You rearrange words in a certain way long enough, you can make anything sound any way you want it to sound. You can make anything make sense to one who knows nothing. We're kind of on that side of knowing nothing because we have nothing to combat what he's saying. We cannot say you're lying. He very well could have been embellishing on a story that might have been true, but not in the way that he says it, or he could just be flat out lying and making himself the hero of his own story. It seems like he's been in there for a long time. He could have been brainstorming and rehearsing, but I can't stress this enough. He's a villain who feels that what he's doing needs to be done because he's seen what happens when it goes unchecked. Like a Thanos. He feels as though he sacrificed more than anybody else taking on this job that nobody asked him to do. He took it upon himself. He doesn't expect a thank you or anybody to understand, but it's a destiny and a responsibility that only he can take on alone. These two Lokis have come to stop him. He's tired. He offers them a proposition. Kill him, disrupt the multi-dimensional peace, take his spot, pulling the strings, or leave him be to continue his job. Now our Loki, which is a very different, mature, sincere Loki, he wants to think this out. This is he could be lying. What if he's telling the truth? Do we want to do this? We made it thus far, but it's not too late to turn around. Sylvie, on the other hand, she's hurt too much. She's been running for way too long. Because of him, she hasn't been allowed to find peace. So she's not hearing nothing he's saying. That's the hill that those two decide to die on. They literally have a fight about it. She just wants to kill him, and seemingly it looked like she does. Now, I have to bring up the fact that he did mention that there are other people like him. I feel like it'd be a waste of a character and of that talent that they just killed him off right there. I believe he's gonna be brought back, and I think he's always gonna be there. But as a result of her killing him, nothing short of chaos. Let's talk about this show as a whole. Hiddleston and Wilson together is top tier. That's the top tier duo. I never thought I'd be saying that. Without either one of them putting on that kind of performance or just being the characters that they are, this show doesn't work. So what I'm trying to say is the actors did their job, the writers did their job, and they came together to make a perfect marriage. Everybody else besides Kang, they were decent. These are the two standouts. When they weren't on screen, it was just not the same. Even when they weren't on screen together, except for those other Lokis, they really stood up for themselves and did their things. Now, any of those actors, I don't know at this point in time, but they held their own. They do this thing where our protagonist easily could have been disposed of, easily could have been killed, and it made sense for that to happen, but it doesn't. I don't like that. I wouldn't call it lazy writing, but I would like for there to be a day where nobody does that anymore. I don't like to see that. They do that so many times. It kind of got annoying, but I was having so much fun where it was always there, and I always knew, but it was like, I don't want this to end, and nobody else wants this to end, so okay, move on. Camera work. Camera work was nothing special. We had a couple scenes that looked like it was one take. I always like that. I always applaud that, but other than that, I can't say they did anything special. What I will say is there's no more Dutch angles. I hated watching those in Thor. This is before I even got into movies and stuff like that. I was a kid and I knew that shit wasn't right, so no more Dutch angles. Thank you. Writing. Well, let me get into cast first, because those go hand in hand. There's certain things that characters or actors can do for a certain script and material that isn't always reciprocated. But there are times the script can make the character. All you have to do is come in. More times than not, it's on the actor and how they deliver their lines is believable. Did you put your soul and heart into it? Like Loki, he always does. Owen Wilson, he does. The one female guard, she was written well. We needed her in this story, I believe, but she doesn't put her soul into it. I've never seen these actors before. Some of these actors, like the rest of the Lokis, but they did their thing. I like how they came on screen. They did their thing. Kang the Conqueror, goodness gracious, he did his thing. The rest of them are just average. You know what I mean? You know, we got the main characters and those ancillary characters that did a great job, but the rest of them are just lower tier, low level. They did enough to keep me, but whenever it wasn't one of the Lokis being on screen, even Sylvie, she was okay, you know what I mean? But if it wasn't our Loki or the other Lokis or Owen Wilson on screen, if they all weren't on the screen together, or it just wasn't the same. The CGI was not horrible. Some of the magic, some of the things that the TVA did, I actually liked it. It made sense. I don't like their costumes. Their costumes look very mall cop-ish, but everything else, it didn't look bad. It looked pretty up to par. There were a couple shots, especially with them being on Lamentus, I was like, did we really need that shot? It was never, damn, that was bad, that was horrible, but it was a little gratuitous, and it's like, we could have did without that. But all in all, it was funny, it was charismatic. I recommend it to anybody that wants to go on an adventure with you by yourself, you and your girl, you and your boyfriend, you and your kids. Fun, wacky, but very entertaining, very cohesive. If you want to have fun, this is for you. This was for me. Later on in life, I'll probably watch it again. I'll probably watch it with my kids. You know, this is something that I actually enjoyed, and I would like to see them run it back for a little bit. But I give this show an 8 out of 10. And I think I fucked up because I usually give letter grades. It's probably going to differ from video to video. The biggest issue that I had and why I give this that letter grade is because I don't like the difference between Loki in the Avengers and Loki in the first episode. I'm just speaking on the first episode. This is before the big change, the big revelation, the self-reflecting, the self-loathing. This is before all of that. Mind you, supposedly in that same day, he was kissing Phil Coulson on the ear while stabbing him through the heart. He was was using words like mule and quim in front of women, very disrespectful, liberating eyeballs from people's skulls, all for a rock, a space rock. When he got to the TVA, at that point, he was supposed to be leaving. He was supposed to be escaping and leaving dead bodies in his wake. They nerfed him, which I like and I appreciate. When he got to the TVA, he was more like his mythological counterpart, because Loki really wasn't, he's not really a bad guy, you know what I mean? He's not a villain, he's a jokester, he's the god of mischief. He'd do weird stuff to you, but it's not always evil. He had no backbone, he was helpless, he was just getting bitched around by everybody. I did not like that early on, and that kind of took some points, and it always stuck with me, but I still enjoyed the show. I still love this show. I still will rewatch this show.